this isn't working. I've been making YouTube videos for the best part of a decade now. And over that time, a lot has changed about what those videos look like on the screen and the behind the scenes process that I use to make them. But there are a couple of things which have remained constant. Firstly, a desire to offer you new perspectives and insights into the world we live in, whether those be academic or journalistic. And secondly, the fact that the online media economy in which I make these videos is fundamentally broken. It might work for the YouTubes and the TikToks and the Metas of this world, but for those of us who actually make the substantive stuff which these platforms trade in, it takes a lot to make the numbers add up. The work that me and my extremely small team of 3 produce gets quite a few eyeballs on it. It's not exactly Mr. Beast numbers, but the number of people who watch our videos is consistently 10 or 20 or sometimes 50 times the full capacity of my local football stadium, which breaks my mind to imagine. In fact, we make some of the most viewed UK-based current affairs programming on this platform. Judged solely in terms of views, which, to be clear, is not something I make a habit of doing, videos of ours which we consider to be massive flops and have us getting all gloomy about the future of the channel would have the BBC or Channel 4 or The Guardian popping champagne corks and handing out promotions. And again, while there are far, far bigger creators out there, getting this kind of audience for reasonably in-depth, carefully produced and fairly sincere videos about politics, the news and current affairs is not nothing. Increasingly, that's been reflected in the access that we've been able to negotiate to illustrious spaces and interesting interviewees. I mean, they let us into the Houses of Parliament. And yet, the economic model on which this work relies continues to be fundamentally broken, which means that making videos at this level in a way that is financially sustainable is a constant struggle. 45% of the advertising revenue generated by these videos is instantly snatched by YouTube, who then whisk it away to Ireland so they don't have to pay too much tax on it. Worse still, complicated and unaccountable monetization policies sometimes makes it impossible to make much of anything at all. A couple of months ago, we made a retrospective piece on the postmodern panic of the mid-2010s, which granted was maybe a little bit niche. Nevertheless, presumably as a result of including a clip of a certain Mr. Musk doing a certain hand gesture, YouTube quickly placed the video in its limited monetization bracket and kind of just avoided recommending it to anyone. The result was that a piece which still got seen by 250,000 people, and which it took 2 people 2 months working full-time to produce, earned us just £916.68 in ad revenue. And the numbers on that just don't work. Wages alone are obviously several times that. And that's before we take into account all the software we need to pay for, keeping our kit up to date, any travel that some of our videos involve, research expenses, props, space hire if we need to, and all the other expenses that come with running any business. Boring things like accountancy cost and Google Workspace accounts so we can have email addresses. I am super careful and thoughtful with how much money we spend on each project, and I'm so deeply proud of what we're able to do with vanishingly small budgets. But the reality is that however hard one tries, producing video is just really, really expensive. There's a reason that low production value podcasts have gradually become the default medium of news media over the past decade. They're dirt cheap to make. The profit margin on an even mildly successful podcast episode is ludicrous, while the amount that you stand to lose if an episode flops is pretty minimal. They're also exceptionally quick to churn out, meaning you can just chuck loads of them at the algorithm and see what works. And that's not to say that there aren't some fantastic podcasts out there, but biased though I might be, I like to still think that there's a place for stuff which is a little bit more thought out, which dives deeper. Stuff which isn't recorded in the vacuum of a soundproof studio somewhere. I've always tried to find a happy medium between putting stuff out regularly and making stuff well. Some creators like to spend months and months on each video, and while that might work for them, that's not for me. I do this work because I think it can make a difference, arrogant though that might seem, and that means putting stuff out there. There are always so many topics that I want to cover that dilly-dallying on any one video always makes me sad for all the videos that I won't get to make because we've missed the boat. At the same time, we continue to be really ambitious about what we can do, even in a relatively short time frame. Over the past year, we've added all kinds of strings to our bow. Interviews, filming on location, even reporting on stuff firsthand, all of which I think makes the videos so much more engaging and, more importantly, valuable than if it was just me wittering away about something in my office for 30 minutes to an hour, or simply rewording someone else's newspaper article and reading it out to you. And yet, from a financial perspective, putting that kind of work into any one of our videos is just super dicey. Over the past year, we've been lucky enough to have some massive hits, some of which have broken all kinds of viewership records for the channel, which always feels amazing and kind of weird. But the reality of the media ecosystem in which we're working is that we kind of have to have a smash hit every 6 months or so to keep things ticking over. You'd hope, or certainly I would hope, that these videos would give us some extra cash to build up the reserves, experiment with new formats, expand what we do, and ultimately make this whole project more impactful and resilient. The reality is that they largely end up just patching holes for the stuff which only gets watched by hundreds of thousands of people. And look, I like to keep my chin up and remain optimistic that we will have one of those smash hits every 6 months or so. But if I'm honest, that optimism is largely baseless. It's primarily just a gambler's fallacy that if we have enough losses, it will become our turn for a win sooner rather than later. And even if it weren't, trying to pick stories which are going to be popular in the current affairs space is really difficult. And even if I had the ability to do so, I don't think it would be good for anyone if I were to make decisions about what stories to cover based solely on what might perform well in the algorithm. That clickbait-based approach has already had a ruinous impact on our journalism and public discourse, and frankly, I don't really want to contribute to that. I'm not averse to covering topics which are popular, and I'm very enthusiastic about making work which is accessible to as many people as possible. I'm also quite happy to try and put together attention-grabbing titles and thumbnails for the stories that we do choose to cover. But I'd hate to be in a position where views-worthiness was our only guiding light. In fact, when I meet some of you at events or in the street, I often find that the videos which people want to talk to me about or which meant the most to people often aren't the ones which performed the best. People love to talk to me about the report we did on Just Stop Oil, which certainly wasn't a money spinner. It turns out that videos which don't have the broadest of audiences can still have a really deep impact on those who do watch them. But as we're working on this stuff, it's often hard to see those positives whilst working against a backdrop in which the whole project constantly feels about 3 months from running out of cash. I guess it's kind of motivating in a stark, horrible, late capitalist kind of way, but it feels like a recipe for burnout. It's made worse by the fact that my team and I are bristling with ideas for new projects we could try out, and even just ways of improving our processes to make us more efficient. Both of which would probably be easy wins in terms of making the channel more sustainable as well. But we're so drowned in just trying to get the next video out the door so that we can know that we've got some money coming in, that there's just not the time to follow up on any of those ideas. Added to all of this on the professional side, my wife is currently pregnant. By the time this video goes out, we'll be expecting to meet that baby very, very soon. And while I'm not planning on taking my foot off the pedal with regard to videos, I do also want to be a good husband and dad. I would like to be able to commit to evenings and weekends being personal time, which would be a much, much easier thing to do in a context where I was only trying to do 1 or 2 people's jobs rather than 5 or 6. So I guess this is a call for support. Because despite all this whinging, I think this could be a really exciting time for what we're able to do with this channel. There is certainly enough going on in the world to be making videos about, and I'm as riled up and enthusiastic about doing so as ever. It seems like the only other option is to give up and let online spaces like YouTube be completely overrun by attention-seeking, incurious, conspiracist blowhards. Let's be honest, they never struggle to find the cash to support their work. I find asking for money deeply cringe. The fact that we're even making this video is a deep embarrassment to me. I try as much as possible to be a fairly impersonal presenter in my work and really don't like making things that are too much about me. But in a live stream a few weeks back, I was talking about the challenging environment which many creators are facing, and someone in the chat suggested that if I ever found myself in a similar position, that I give a decent amount of notice rather than just suddenly announcing my retirement or something. And this is that notice. This isn't about me being able to buy some fancy camera kit or do a 4-hour work week or something. The main thing that I would like to be able to do is to steady the ship. To be a little bit more certain that the money coming in each month is going to match the very modest amount that we spend on our videos. But being forced to consider what would happen if this were to have to fold someday has also really clarified for me quite how much I believe in this thing that we're doing here. I think that there is the opportunity to do more than just survive, and instead to carefully and cautiously expand our team a little bit, to first ease the pressure, and then to allow us to make more and better stuff. New formats, more regular releases, better sound quality. I can't make any promises as to exactly what, because I don't know if anyone else wants to see that, whether all of this is just hubris and arrogance. But if you value or ever have valued the stuff that I make, and at the very least would like to see it continue to exist, then I would be deeply grateful if you would consider supporting my work in one of a few different ways. The first is through my Patreon at patreon.com/TomNicholas. Now, I have really mixed feelings about Patreon as a company, in much the same way as I have mixed feelings about YouTube. I won't get into that here. Suffice it to say that, as things stand, it remains probably the easiest way to give us some semi-direct, regular financial support to continue doing what we do, and hopefully do more of it. The initial promise of Patreon when it first launched was that it would allow creators, artists, journalists, and others with niche but enthusiastic audiences to nevertheless find financial security for their work. This has, unfortunately, never quite been true. Patreon is incredibly top-heavy. As of my report on the topic in 2023, 50% of all public pledges went to the top 1.75% of creators. Needless to say, I'm not one of them. At time of writing, I have 328 paid members on my Patreon, and those folks have been doing a lot of heavy lifting in supporting what you see on screen. We don't get very many new joiners, which means that many of those people have been helping keep the lights on for a long time. If we could spread the load a bit by getting that number up, that would be one way of making this channel's income a little bit more predictable and this whole enterprise that much more sustainable. There are a bunch of perks available at each tier. I do a weekly blog update most weeks, and we try to get early snippets of stuff that we're working on out as much as possible. You can get your name in the credits to videos, quite standard Patreon perk stuff. But I've always tried to strike a good balance between doing some extra bits and pieces to say thank you to everyone and not committing to doing so much that it diverts further time away from working on the videos themselves, which is what the vast majority of people who sign up would like to see more of. If you'd like to check that out, you can do so at patreon.com/TomNicholas. The other option, if you'd like to help us out, is to sign up to Nebula. Being part of Nebula has been a real game changer for my work. There's a lot of support on the back end, which you don't see, where the Nebula team work hard to negotiate us good deals on software and footage licensing, which we would be completely unable to do on our own. Nebula also sponsors most of my videos these days, which means that rather than having to shill for some dodgy online therapy or something, I get paid to tell you about a bunch of great films and shows that I and a load of other cool people have made and that I genuinely think are really good. That lack of reliance on third-party sponsors, which might be picky about what they're happy to sponsor and not, is so empowering in freeing us up to cover whatever stories that we feel are the most important at any given time. More than that, as many of you will know by now, Nebula have twice paid me to make ambitious stuff which the budget of this channel simply wouldn't allow for. My feature-length film Boomers is available to watch exclusively on Nebula now, and I'm really proud of it. It was even recently named a Webby Awards honoree, which was pretty cool. Not only did it turn out pretty good, but I also learned so much about how to make good documentary work throughout the process, all of which I'm keen to use in making everything I do that much better in the future. The benefit of signing up to Nebula, of course, is that it's not just extra stuff from me that you get access to, but also exclusive shows and films from a wide range of creators. Bobby Broccoli, Wendover Productions, Lindsay Ellis, TLDR News, and so many more. If you sign up to Nebula using my personal link, go.nebula.tv/Tom Nicholas, you can get a 40% discount on an annual plan, and we get a kickback for signing you up, which, considering Nebula also pays us better per view than YouTube does, is win-win. And then I guess win again because I got to make boomers. That link again is go.nebula.tv/Tom Nicholas. This is a really weird video to have made because I think this could be such an exciting time for this channel. There's so much that my team and I have learned about how to do our jobs really well, and I would love to be in a place where, rather than feeling like we've got the Grim Reaper breathing down our necks, we can be on the front foot doing our absolute best work. If you'd like to help us get to that place, the links to both my Patreon and to Nebula are down below. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you in the next video. Pretty cringe, the whole thing, isn't it? Shh.